morning, everybody. My name is Raymond Arnold, and here's Elena sitting on the couch with me, and our pups. We're sitting in LARQ, our artist studio, artist gallery, artist workshop, sort of artist temple in a way. We're sitting here in Queenstown, an historic mining town in the west of Tasmania, which is a long way south of the equator. It's pretty heavy weather today. The sun's just breaking through after a heavy night of rain. All the rivers are running and raging today. But anyway, we're here we're sitting here this morning, and we've been sitting and working here for about 9 years now. Our project is a decade-long project. We'll retire at the end of next year and start walking the world somehow with our pups. I don't know how we'll do that. But we've been gradually building up, and the last couple of years have been fairly intense with workshops, as I said, and gallery exhibitions and visitors. The film's being made by Richard Webb, and he's been a fabulous visitor to LARQ over the last couple of months. One of our international artists in residence, in fact, and there's been about 8 of them now. Somebody from Canada, America, Germany, Scotland. Fantastic parade of people doing different projects here in the West. We're taking Richard to the airport. It's the eve of his departure, in fact, so this is the swan song, I guess. This is a farewell. LARQ's a sort of intervention, I guess, into a pretty contested space here in Western Tasmania. Historically, a mining, certainly during white settlement, although the Aboriginals traversed this area for centuries, 25, 30,000 years, living in under the glaciers initially. But the miners have been here really going for it for 100 years, so the environment, especially in the early days, was treated with complete disregard and in fact churned into when you see photographs, historic photographs, some of them resemble First World War I battlefields, a completely destroyed country. It's coming back a bit, nature's coming back a bit, but the river that I crossed this morning, I'm walking one of the dogs, is probably still one of the most polluted in Australia, if not the world. Acid mine drainage takes its toll. So we're here, Elena and I, we're forging a sort of an alliance here, a personal one, and one with the community, and one with other artists. We're trying to sort of make links to all sorts of people. We get a bit of money from arts bodies, which is great, and we pour our own money into it as well. So it's a sort of, what is it, a sort of folly, it's a sort of a lot of wishful thinking, and it's a determined project to live out our life here in a creative way. We want to make things as sort of seamless as we can. We live here, we entertain here, we work here. So we like those series of linkages. I first came to Tasmania as a 17-year-old in 1967, so you can see I'm getting into my 60s now. But in 1967, after weeks in the bush walking the mountains, I was offered an accommodation in a little cabin, a ranger's cabin in one of the parks. And here was this perfect space. As a 17-year-old, I found a sort of prototype for how I might live. Here were the ranger's photographs. There was his little dark room in the corner of his bathroom, and here was the books on the shelves, fascinating books. Here were his skis, his sign of an engaged, creative and energetic man. And I guess I've looked all my life for that sort of balance of things, and I think with Elena's help, we found it here at LARQ in Queenstown. I've been working as an artist since the 1970s, where I studied in Melbourne, and mainly printmaking and painting. And I've been developing my career in Australia and in Europe and America since then, with exhibitions and projects in different parts of the world. But this is Queenstown is the sort of base for it all. I worked at the university in Hobart, a fantastic place on the docks at the art school in Hobart, and I guess through the 1980s and 90s found projects away from that art school in time off and leave without pay to work in small schools and mining towns here in the west, and I was sort of linked in then. I found a sort of freedom and autonomy here to work. I brought my students here a lot, and we worked on all sorts of projects. Here's a catalogue brochure for a big project we ran over a couple of years, a research project, if we're talking university talk. Excursive site, where we're looking at a particular mountain in the north of Tasmania on the northwest coast called St Valentine's Peak, first climbed by a white guy in 1827, and hence the Valentine's Peak moniker, climbed in February. So we looked at that and we used that as a sort of base for our research, for our art. Here are some of the essays on the back. Past Views, Future Maps by Margaret Woodward. Shadows and Light, Memories of a Mountain Landscape. Here's Jonathan Holmes' Breaking the Skin of Things. Henry Hallier, A Revision. So we're looking at a sort of swathe of time and effect. Time, space and effect, consequential sort of flow. The students came from all parts of the world, Americans, Germans, and they were a fantastic lot to work with. This project and this course ran over about a decade. So that's another reason why I'm here working away in Queenstown. I found through those students, through the eyes of those visitors, a sort of fantastic space here, and it continually came alive for me. Here's a small catalogue we made of an exhibition that we would have each year of our work. That international flavour continues at LARQ. As I said, we run a program of finding support for visiting artists such as Richard. Here's Elizabeth Wex, the German painter. Fantastic project about Lake Margaret, an historic power station in the mountains above Queenstown. Julian Cooper he has a show on in London at the moment, actually, in Art Space Gallery in Islington. Julian was here on a couple of occasions making these fabulous paintings of the mine. Very interested in the fractured landscape. In fact, the catalogue was called A Fractured Landscape. Sue Jane Taylor was an incredibly energetic Scottish woman that came here, and Sue Jane, she worked up at the mine a lot, underground, drawing continually, tunnels, big machines sitting in tunnels like monsters in the cave. Lots of portraits of different artists. So through the international artists, through local artists, Tasmanian artists, Australian artists who come here through our auspices, we're encouraging dialogue and discussion about the natural landscape and the interaction of mankind, I guess, with it, through mining, through forestry, through tourism, through all sorts of issues. We're developing our building here, and I'll show you in a moment if it stopped raining the exterior, but the interior is a sort of Aladdin's cave, really. It's full of beauty and wonder. Photographs behind us here on the wall. Initially, here's a painting of Helena's. It's a painting she's made of a portrait, actually, of Astrid de la Forêt, a fabulous French artist that was here in 2010. You can see she's just about had it as we've made her climb this mountain. And in the back, looking off into the distance, is a local artist, Joe Osborne. And in a way, that painting symbolises what we're trying to do here, bringing people together, people from different places, for making artwork and making dialogue about the world. We're outside LARQ. We've even got something like the Batmobile here, I guess. This is our LARQ-mobile with the orange, signature orange. I like running the orange through different parts of my project. It signals a sort of vital and interestingly connected to a concept on the west coast in mining towns of high vis or high visibility. It's all about safety and being seen, and I guess as an artist in the town I want to go along with everybody else on that message. But you can see as I turn here, you can start to see parts of our building, parts of our renovations to this building, this old school. It's a sort of incubator for us in a way, and continuing its sort of almost pedagogical sort of function. We're here to sort of learn things. So we've added bits to it as well. The architecture is important to me. I think architecture is absolutely crucial to us living in the world. It's our, excuse me, it's our shelter. Obviously it's our shelter and protects us. Last night's front came through and roared through, shook the building. It's protecting us, but at the same time it's also symbolising and helping us establish ourselves philosophically in the world, I think. It's about an ideal sort of state, particularly if you can develop it in a sort of almost storytelling way, referring to different aspects of the world. This wall behind me is recycled timber. It's a sort of extraordinary timber, a King Billy pine that's unique to Western Tasmania, that 100 years ago was turned into staves to build a incredible wooden pipeline for one of the very first hydroelectric projects in Tasmania. So there's a sort of flow here out of the past, ancient Huon King Billy pine being turned into these sort of staves. So you can see the orange there clearly again. It runs from the bonnet of the car into the building and onto my hat with a lovely French mate bought for me. But let's move inside now. Okay, we've come into the space. There's a fantastic painting here by a woman called Anne Morrison, who's a Scottish girl originally, but now lives in northern Tasmania. A big panoramic, vertically panoramic, which is interesting. It's not often you see that, of a very special area just north of here. And as we come in, we can see the gallery area. I've just taken down Richard's exhibition, which has been here for a month or so, and we're getting set up for another exhibition that will open on May the 10th. Hobart artist whose paintings I'll collect later on in the week. I'll just get the dog in. And we can see through here to the workshop. So the second classroom in the old school is a beautiful space for us to work in. Here's my etching press, and it's our lounge room as well. So it's also, as you can see, a sort of storage area. It's an archival area, really. Things are sort of stored here, prints and lots of images. I made the comment about working as an artist for a long time, and these drawers are, if I was to die tomorrow, people would be able to tell the story of my last 30 or 40 years of my life from these drawers. I guess they're like a timeline. As I open this drawer, I can find etchings that I'd made in the early 2000s in Paris. So these are etchings about protecting soldiers. Iraq is going crazy, and the Middle East is in trouble, and the idea of conflict and protection of people involved in that conflict seemed to be in my mind at the time. If I open another drawer, I can find an etching I made almost 20 years ago about the destruction of the Tasmanian forests by the forest industry. You can see the segmented tree here cut up and dismembered in a way, not unlike you might find those famous Goya images, those etchings of terrible atrocities and dismembered people on Korok trees. So there's an etching from that time. Here is more forest imagery. This was part of a print called The Spirit of the Forest, and it's a screen print from about 95. It's a diptych, as a lot of my work is. The printmaking instinct is to sort of fold one thing from the other. The printmaking process relies on that. So in a way I've continued that sort of story into the actual form of the print itself. the print almost seems to create itself. There's a sort of energy and activity from this sort of exchange going on. I've got a bit of a cold today. You'll have to excuse me coughing and stuff. But anyway, there's a little sort of quick story about my etchings and the prints in particular. So we'll come back into the other room and finish up with this other work here. So on the table in front of us is I've set up the copper plates that I'm currently working with, and some of the proofs of those copper plates. For those of you who know about printmaking, we have a concept of states, and this is about the fifth state of this work. Initially with just a small series of copper plates in the middle, and now it's expanding out. I guess I'll keep going with this. I quite like the idea of this open-endedness to the work. And the gallery that we're standing in, hopefully by this time next year, excuse me, I'll have this work up as a sort of almost enclosing panorama. And it will develop over the next few years of my life. The copper is a telling sort of material for us to use here in Queenstown, because essentially that's what's mined here. 6,000 tonnes a day when the mine is in full swing, goes up and out to be processed, is dug up. So it's a sort of a relentless and credible process. But the print itself, excuse me, is hard ground etching. Very simple process, relatively unchanged for centuries. Invented by the Germans when the Moorish paper came up through Italy into northern Europe, and the Germans could work out how to print from their metal engraved armoured sort of plates. They developed this fantastic method, which went on into Europe and into France, where I tried to pick it up at the Le Courrier-Frelot atelier in the early 1990s. So I had this remarkable period of working in this sort of authentic space that was part of this fantastic tradition. So I'm sort of building on top of that by coming here and working away at LARQ. So I guess I'm just about finished. We're getting in the car now. We're heading off to Hobart. Richard will get on the plane to Melbourne tomorrow morning, and we'll be back with you later next week.